Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we are going to get a request from the Spirit card, essentially almost like a theme card from this Earth Magic deck. And then we're going to get advice from Spirit from this Everyday Tarot deck. So we'll start with the Earth Magic deck, getting a theme. So essentially like what Spirit would like you to, is requesting that you pay attention to, a theme Spirit is requesting you pay attention to. No way. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm so blown away. So I just recorded a reading prior to this. Same essence, okay? Theme card, request card, advice card. You're not going to believe this. It was a different deck. And do you know what card I drew from the different deck? I drew the emergence card. The same thing. And then you're going to have to, okay, I'm just like blown away. You're going to have to go to that reading because there was a, well, let me pull out the card for you. Give me a second. Okay. So I did, again, the same reading, but instead of the Earth Magic card, or Earth Magic deck, I used the Soul Tree Oracle card. And the card that came out, look at this, emerging. Look at that. Emergence, emerging. And then in that reading, I showed how I had just looked at a piece of art that was called Emerge. and then I pulled it up and showed it. And it had the same shape as this. It was just like, this is blowing me away. So we've got emergence, emerging, emerge. Oh my gosh. And now I'm just a little even more weirded out because in that reading, something kept coming through, like tapping into the path of emergence. Like I wasn't saying emerging, I was saying emergence. Wow. This is crazy. These synchronicities just blow me away. Okay, so I think I'm gonna keep with the same essence that I explained before. We're gonna get advice from Spirit about how to, be emerging. But I think we're gonna consider this just like a continuation of the past reading. So we'll make this almost like a two-part reading. So the reading I did before was part one. I will link it up in the description box. I'm just like blown away. So if you are dropping in on this, if this video has come across your path, I think you definitely want to tune into that part one, either after you finish watching this one or before, because this is just too crazy. Wow. I just love it so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. I just love doing these readings, and it's just such a treat that I get to do them for you. You all watch and comment and so on and so forth. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So the first thing I'm going to do here before I pull the tarot cards is we're going to read from this guidebook about the emergence card. Oh my gosh, I'm just going to be riding high all evening after these two readings. It just feels so, you just can't make this stuff up. It's just crazy. Okay, so I forgot to mention this, but it's actually the dragonfly card. So, but I saw emergence and I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, so this is the dragonfly card. Here's what it says. It says, in the stages of the life cycle of the dragonfly, once the egg is laid upon a floating plant or dropping into the water, it gestates, hatches, and may remain for up to 4 years in its larval form, called a nymph. Wow, 4 years. I had no idea. Wow, I didn't know that. Okay. This is a precursor to the dragonfly. Dragonflies skip the cocoon stage, moving from egg directly to nymph. At some point, the nymph climbs onto the rock or the leaf and then emerges from its former body and takes on the shape and character of the adult dragonfly. This radiant being then proceeds to illuminate our eyes and hearts as we witness the dramatic colors and magical dance along the surface of the water. In this card, we see nature goddess, like the dragonfly, emerging from the water. Her hair braided with vines dotted with flowers. That's sort of weird because this plant is one that I think is always like dotted with flowers. Wow, okay, onward. She is surrounded by dragonflies and is one with the vibrant plant life thriving in the pond. The goddess emerges from her gestation in the water, transformed with a renewed sense of power and purpose. It goes on to say, you are in an intense process of emergence into the next cycle of your life. Unlike more gradual shifts in awareness you have experienced, unlike more gradual shifts in awareness you have experienced, this one is happening quite rapidly and came on somewhat unexpectedly without any pauses for contemplation or indecision. You may even think that you are unprepared for such dramatic change in your life, yet you are prepared, and you can put to use the experiences and wisdom you have accumulated up to now. Life is demanding that you move into the next stage of maturity. This requires you to adjust your thinking about yourself, others, and your community. Wow, that's crazy, because we talked a lot about, in the last reading, about just a willingness to see things differently, a willingness to have new perspectives and release the past versions of yourself who were maybe tied to outdated perspectives. So I'm going to read that sentence one more time, or paragraph here. Life is demanding that you move into the next stage of maturity. This requires you to adjust your thinking about yourself, others, and your community. It calls for you to shed yet another layer of your ego-filled defenses and let go of any illusions of being less than who you are. This period of emergence is one of broadening consciousness. Well, that's crazy, because that's what we literally talked about. Oh my gosh, my mind is just blown. We literally talked about the power in the last reading of like broadening your awareness, your perspectives. Wow. This period of emergence is one of broadening consciousness and heightened perceptual capacities. And since it is inevitable, it is best to surrender to the flow and allow yourself to gracefully move into the next cycle of life. Wow. Okay, let's pull some tarot. More advice, more emergence advice, please, for the viewer at the time they find this video. So in the last reading, if you haven't tuned in yet, the Fool and the Ace of Wands came out as advice with the Eight of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. So we talked a lot about just a willingness to get insights and ideas from a higher path. Oh, wow. Okay, so now we got 4 that want to come out. Okay, let's take a breath. Now, okay, so let me tell you what came out first, and then I'll tell you what I'm feeling. So the Moon in reverse came out, the Knight of Wands, the Star, and the Empress. The Knight of Wands in reverse, the Star in reverse, the Empress upright. Now, this happened in the last reading too. I did not feel like the reversals were accurate, which doesn't happen super often for me, but it's happening again here. And it might be because that reading is just kind of, the energy is flowing with it, but I'm going to go with that intuition and read all of these upright and give you the story that feels like it wants to come through. So there's like this just beautiful essence here with the Moon and the Knight of Wands. And I wasn't planning on putting the cards this way, but I think there's a reason for it. I feel like there's kind of like a message with the Moon and the Knight of Wands together, and then a message with the Star and the Empress combined. So let's start with the Moon and the Knight of Wands. The Moon, when positively aspected, and I'm really getting the sense that it is in this reading, is this beautiful card of surrendering to the mysteries of life, of surrendering to the unknown, of not always having to control things. And I think there is definitely there's a continuation of that essence from the last reading, because I think you are truly embarking on a new stage, right? And so in order to actually move into the new, we have to not be controlling the process. Otherwise, it's not actually new, right? Because we can only like control what we know. But if something is actually new, we don't know it yet. It is actually unknown. And so there's definitely this surrender to the process and surrender to the mystery and the beauty of the unknown that is coming through with this Moon card. And I think there's something here too. I feel like I mentioned this quote a lot on this channel, but I think it's because it's a good one. It comes from a guy, his name is Paul Selig. He channels what he calls the guides, and the guides say, the cost of the new is the old. So it's like really simple and obvious, right? But isn't it like, doesn't it kind of like hit you like, holy cow, the cost of the new is the old. And it's been such a powerful idea in my life because I am working on healing the idea that I can like get new and better without there being any sort of cost to it. You know, I think I always wanted my life to get better without actually changing to be better. Like, I know that sounds weird, but can you resonate? Like I wanted to get better without there being a cost. Now, there isn't actually a sacrifice because if we want new and better, you know, the old, you know, giving the old, releasing the old, offering the old, paying the cost, which is the old, isn't actually a sacrifice, right? Because we release the old and we move into the new. But, and to our more egoic self, like it feels like a sacrifice, right? But it's simply more neutrally a cost. And I'm getting the sense to here with that moon card, which is not really something I typically sense with the moon card, but it kind of goes with that whole flow of like surrendering to the process, surrendering to the newness. And in order to do that, we have to give up some sense of control to a certain extent. We have to find our control, our sense of like, it's going to be okay in the surrender process versus like in the fixation process, in the trying to control everything so we feel safe process. And we can't do that because when we are doing that, we can do that. It's okay to do that. It makes sense why we do that, right? But if we want to move into the new, we can't do both, is what I'm trying to say. Because when we're so trying to fixate on controlling, what we're controlling is what is known. And what the moon card is screaming to me is the unknown, the unknown, the unknown. And so there's this interesting paradox between the moon and the Knight of Wands because there's, again, this like unknown surrender energy with this really action-oriented energy. And that definitely came out in the last reading. We had the Ace of Wands come out, the Ace of Inspiration, which was giving me more of a vibe of being willing to be open to receiving insight. But then we had this like Eight of Pentacles energy that was just really strong and grounded, that was coming through of just like consistent effort, consistent inspired action. And then now we have the Knight of Wands showing up, which is just kind of like fueling that energy. You know, the Eight of Pentacles is like consistency, or in my mind is often consistency over intensity. So there's definite, which isn't the Knight of Wands. The Knight of Wands, you know, when negatively aspected can be reckless, but when positively aspected is just kind of like putting some fuel in the fire. Is that the term? Hopefully you get what I mean. But you know what I'm saying? And so I'm getting that sense here where it's like permission to or fan the flames, maybe is what I'm trying to say. I don't know. We're going to say fan the flames. So permission to kind of fan the flame. And funny, like, doesn't that horse's mane almost look like flames? So definitely getting permission here to fan the flame. So it doesn't have to be intensity. It's still like consistency over intensity is still like the, like you don't want the fanning the flames to trump your ability to be consistent. Does that make sense? Which is interesting, which is why I'm loving that we had that conversation first in part one. And then the Knight of Wands comes out where it's like you can fan the flames, but never let what you do to fan the flames trump your ability to be consistent. So we want that sustainability aspect to be happening as you are emerging. Does that make sense? I hope so. And then these two cards here, more than advice, honestly, they feel like validation. Like you're going to get what you want. I mean, it's just really beautiful. Like the Star is this beautiful wish fulfillment card in my mind. And it's wish fulfillment because of the healing work that you've done and because of, or wish fulfillment because of the healing work you've done. And also like the wishes that you are, the dreams, the hopes, the wishes you're being called towards and working towards is like activating that healing process. And honestly, like this card, it's wild. This is giving me that piece of art that I talked about is a part of a collection called the Delicate Dance. And we read about the delicate dance in that last reading. And it's kind of that same essence of like, it's wish fulfillment, but because you've been initiated, you've surrendered to the initiation process from the universe, and you have become resilient. Do you know what I mean? So there's like a capacity essence here that is definitely really strong. So it's almost like you're getting your rewards, but like who you've become is the reward itself. Does that make sense? Like, it's not the person that you have grown into and are continually becoming is the actual reward. And because you more and more are embodying this person and emerging for the world to see it, whether it's like in a big way, like, on social media or something, or in more intimate moments in your, relationships and communities, you're still grounding that energy. And because of that, you will receive also like the tangible reward. So there's just like such beauty. And then we have here the Empress. I mean, it's just like, that's one of the most abundant cards in the deck. She's just like emanating abundance and fertility, grace, beauty. And isn't it interesting? She has this crown of stars. And then we've got the flower crown here in the emergence card. Oh my gosh, it's just like gorgeous energy. And so between the two readings, I think to try to summarize, I mean, clearly you're in a season of emergence. You're being asked to emerge more and more, baby step by baby step, and walk the path of emergence. And emergence, to me, part of it isn't just a willingness to more and more be seen and heard, but there is definitely this essence of grounding all the things you've learned when you were not in the seasons of emergence, when you were season of emergence, when you were more in the season of potentially sacred solitude and inner work and healing. There's like this grounding all you've learned into your daily life experience that feels like is really important. And from the last reading, again, there is this idea of a willingness of getting the insights and ideas that were from the emergent path. And now there's this idea, a similar theme of, surrendering to that which you don't know. So getting those insights. So instead of controlling what you do know, letting things unfold a bit more naturally so that you're paying the cost of the new, which is the old. And there's the consistency is not something you ever want to let go of. The Eight of Pentacles energy that came out in the last reading, but there's like this fanning the flame that you are being given permission to do, as long as it doesn't trump that ability to sustain and be consistent. And then just this final ending of like, look at what you're emerging into, who you have become and are becoming. And I mean, this is just gorgeous energy. So you have so much to look forward to, so much to be proud of. I appreciate you tuning in so much. This collective that I'm reading for is just like, I sense such a kindness and earnestness in who you are, in your path, and your willingness to walk the path. I seem to read for people who've already done a ton of inner work and healing work. And I'm just getting the sense that more and more, this is not only, I wish this for you, but I'm also getting a true sense that more and more that healing work is essentially going to pay dividends. And you were doing the healing work, for the rewards to a certain extent, but I also get the sense you were really you have been earnestly doing the healing work to become anew, to embody that new essence, not just for the rewards. But I wish you the rewards. I think the time is right for you to more and more be receiving those rewards. And, I think more people like you deserved power and influence and rewards because, you're going to do great things with it. And I'm thinking of a song. I'll link it up in the description box. It might be called Resilient, actually. I think it is called Resilient. I mean, so I know there is a song Resilient by Rising Appalachia. I'm just not sure if this particular lyric comes from that particular song. So regardless, I will link up the Resilient song, but I think this is in that song. That's wild. But okay, so I'm just sort of blown away by all these synchronicities because in the Delicate Dance artwork series, she talks about like the rewards of resilience. Okay, so the lyric I'm thinking of is power to the peaceful. If I find out it's in a different song, I'll link that song up too in the description box. But don't you just love that? Like, I think the time is now, the time is right, the time is overdue for power to the peaceful, for rewards to the peaceful, for dividends to the peaceful. And so I wish that for you, because I am getting such a beautiful sense in your energy, such a beautiful journey you've been willing to go on of healing. And that's not easy. That's some of the most difficult work a person can do. And it is some of the most rewarding work. And so kudos to you for being where you're at now. And I wish you all the best in this season of emergence.